Assalamu alaikum. This is request-based video named Reasoning by Dear Knowledge. Reasoning is actually discussed in experimental psychology and a chapter Thinking and Problem Solving. So reasoning is studied over there. Reasoning have a lot of definitions. I have included some definitions of reasoning, about 6 to 7 definitions, and you will see the changes in the definition made in every coming in time to time. So according to Woodworth, in reasoning, items furnished by recall, present observation, or both are combined and examined to see what conclusion can be drawn from the combination. According to Gates, in 1947, reasoning is a term applied to highly purposeful, controlled, selective thinking. According to Moon, 1967, reasoning is the combining past experiences in order to solve a problem which cannot be solved by mere reproduction of earlier solution. And according to Garrett, 1968, reasoning is stepwise thinking with a purpose or goal in mind. According to Skinner, in 1968, reasoning is the word used to describe mental recognition of cause and effect relationships. It may be the prediction of an event from an observed cause or the inferences of a cause from an observed event. According to Mangel, reasoning may be termed as highly specialized thinking, which helps an individual to explore mentally the cause and effect relationship of an event or solution of a problem by adopting some well-organized systematic steps based on previous experiences combined with the present observation. Reasoning is a cognitive process of looking for reasons, belief, conclusions, actions, or feelings. In general, thinking with the implication that process is logical and coherent, more specifically problem solving, whereby well-informed hypotheses are tested systematically and solutions are logically deduced. Different forms of such reflections on reasoning occur in different fields. In philosophy, the study of reasoning typically focuses on what makes reasoning efficient or inefficient, appropriate or inappropriate, good or bad. Philosophers do this by examining the form of structure of the reasoning within arguments, or by considering the broader method used to reach particular goal of reasoning. Psychologists and cognitive scientists, in contrast, tend to study how people reason, which cognitive and neural processes are engaged, and how cultural factors affect the inferences people draw. So the properties of logic which may be used to reason are studied in mathematical logic. In the field of automatic reasoning studies how reasoning may be modeled computationally, and lawyers also study reasoning. So as we have already discussed, that reasoning is the cognitive process of looking for reasons, beliefs, conclusions, actions, or feelings. So philosophers and logicians have often drawn distinctions between deductive and inductive reasoning. Scientific research into reasoning is carried out within the field of psychology and cognitive science. Psychologists attempt to determine whether or not people are capable of rational thoughts in various different circumstances. Experimental cognitive psychologists carry out research on reasoning behavior, and experimenters investigate how people make inferences about factual situations, hypothetical possibilities, and probabilities, and counterfactual situations. If you search on internet, you will find a lot of different types of reasoning, like felicity, or you can say abductive reasoning, etc., etc. But if you search in the book, you will only find 2 types of reasoning, and these 2 types of reasonings are the important type of reasoning. So there are actually 2 types of reasonings according to the book point of view. Number 1 is deductive reasoning, and number 2 is inductive reasoning. So let's start with the deductive reasoning. Definition include reasoning that begins with a specific set of assumptions and attempts to draw conclusions or derive theorems from them. It is known as deductive reasoning, or simple words you can say it is a general principle to specific case reasoning. That why it is called deductive reasoning. In general, it is a logical operations which proceeds from the general to the particular. Deductive reasoning goes from general to specific, and deductive reasoning is concerned with the conclusions which follow necessarily if certain statements or premises are assumed to be true. It is very important to note that the validity of a given conclusion is based solely on logical principles and is not affected in any way by whether or not that conclusion is actually true. So deductive reasoning means starting from general rule and moving to specifics. Deductive reasoning is a form of reasoning in which definite conclusions follow, provided that certain statements are assumed to be true. Reasoning in an argument is valid if the argument's conclusion must be true when the premises that the reason given to support the conclusions are true. In a deductive argument with valid reasoning, the conclusion contains no more information than is contained in the premises. Therefore, deductive reasoning does not increase one's knowledge base, and so is said to be non-appellative because it does not increase one's knowledge. Deductive reasoning or deduction starts with a general case and deduces specific instances. Deduction starts with an assumed hypothesis or theory, which is why it has been called hypothetical deduction. So this assumption may be well accepted or it may rather more shaky. Nevertheless, for the argument if it is not questioned. So deduction is used by scientists who take a general scientific law and apply it to a certain case as they assume that the law is true. Deduction can also be used to test an induction by applying it elsewhere, although in this case the initial theory assumed to be true only temporary. One classic example of deductive reasoning is that found in syllogism, like the following. For example, premise 1 is all humans are mortal. Then, if all humans are mortal, then premise 2 will be Socrates is a human. So the conclusion is that Socrates is mortal. For example, if we discuss it to clear a concept, the example 2 will, for example 2, premise 1 is all animals have 4 legs. Premise 2 is cow has 4 legs. So the conclusion will be cow is an animal. So it is proved that cow is an animal. So here in these both examples, if you have noticed, in both examples, we moved from general to specific. Like all humans are mortal. We know that all humans are mortal, and it's a general principle, a general thing. So from general, we are moving towards the specific, and Socrates is human. So in order to prove that Socrates is human and he is mortal too, so we are moving from general to specific. If we talk about the cow in the second example, we also move from the general to specific. So let's talk about the validity and soundness. Deductive conclusion can be valid or invalid. Valid arguments obey the initial rule. For validity, the truth or falsehood of the initial rule is not considered. Thus, you can say that valid conclusions need not to be true, or and invalid conclusion may not be false. So when a conclusion is both valid and true, it is considered to be sound. And when it is valid but not true, then it is considered to be unsound. For example, in the following example, the first example is all men are mortal. William is a man. Therefore, William is mortal. So William is actually a man standing in front of you, and now you're making a conclusion. Now you're moving from general to specific. The general thing is that all men are mortal because all men are human. So you are moving towards William. Now you're saying William is a man. And now you can say that William is mortal. So this statement or this example kind of makes sound, and you kind of believe on it, like it's kind of true. Yeah, William is a man and he's mortal and he's a human. So this example makes sound, so you can say that it is valid and sound argument, and it is like sound argument. In the next example, if you look, it's valid but unsound argument, because in the example the guy is saying that all boy eat apple. Ron eats apple, therefore Ron is a boy. It does not make any sound because Ron may be a girl or Ron may be an animal. So you cannot say that Ron is a boy. Maybe Ron is a female animal. So all boys eat apple and Ron eats apple, therefore Ron is a boy. You cannot prove it. Our unsound argument is that if any of the above two premises is not true, then it is unsound. And in sound argument, the both premises should be true. For example, you can see in deductive argument there is a valid and invalid. Invalid argument directly lead to unsound argument, and valid argument have premises one that is true, and if the other premises is false, then it is also considered as unsound argument, and if both premises are true, then it is considered as sound argument. Like that makes sense. In the next picture you can see the examples. Example 1 is all dogs are mammal, and he have a dog and the dog name is Roger. So you can say all dogs are mammals, and premises 2 is Roger is a dog. So premises 1 is all dogs are mammals. It is also true. Premises 2 is Roger is a dog. It is also true. So the conclusion is Roger is a mammal. So that premises kind of makes sound. So you can say it is sound argument. And if you check the other example of unsound argument, one of the premises is untrue and the conclusion is false. So you can say it is unsound argument because it does not make any sense. So let's move towards an inductive reasoning. Its definition include it is a form of reasoning which begins with specific arguments and arrived at a general logical conclusion. You can say that inductive reasoning is from specific to general. In deductive reasoning, it was from general principle to specific case, whereas in inductive reasoning, it is from specific case to general principles. That is inductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning goes from specific to general. In simple words, it is a form of reasoning which begins with the specific arguments and arrives at a general logical conclusion. In many cases, induction is termed as strong and weak on the basis of credibility of argument put forth. Inductive reasoning involves making a generalized conclusion from premises that refers to particular instances. Inductive reasoning means starting from specific and deriving a general rule. In this type of reasoning, the process of induction is followed. Induction means a process of reasoning in which general principles are inferred from specific cases. It is a logical operation which proceeds from the individual to the general. What is assumed true of the elements from a class is assumed true of the whole class. Induction is a form of inferences producing propositions about unobserved objects or types, either specifically or generally, based on previous observations. It is used to ascribe properties or relations to objects or types based on previous observations or experiences, or to formulate general statements or laws based on limited observations of recurring phenomenal patterns. Inductive reasoning or induction is reasoning from specific case or cases and deriving a general rule. It draws inferences from observation in order to make generalizations. In general terms, the conclusion of inductively valid arguments are probably not necessarily true. Interestingly, the chances of the conclusion being false are significant even all the premises on which the conclusion is based are true. Much of the research on inductive reasoning has been concerned with concept learning. A classic example of inductive reasoning comes from the empiricist David Hume, in which there is only one premise, that is, the sun has risen in the east every morning up till now, so the conclusion is that the sun will also rise in the east tomorrow. So inferences can be done in 4 stages. Number 1 will be observation, in which we collect facts without biases, and in number 2 there will be analysis. In analysis, classify facts and identifying patterns of regularity, and then there will be inference. In inference from the pattern, inner generalizations about the relations between the facts, and then there will be confirmation. Number 4, testing the inference through further observation. An example of strong inductive reasoning. It will include all the tigers observed in a particular region have yellow-black strips. Therefore, all the tigers native to this region have yellow strips. So this is the example of strong inductive reasoning, as it is like a strong proof. You have done a research on it and you have finally got the conclusions. A weak example of inductive reasoning will be, I always jump the red light, therefore everybody jumps the red light. It is kind of a weak inductive reasoning because it does not make that much sense. It does not give a solid proof or solid reasons. That's why it is called weak inductive reasoning. Inductive argument can include part to whole, which is where the whole is assumed to be like individual, only bigger, and extrapolations, where areas beyond the area of study are assumed to be like the studied area, like in the previous example we studied the tigers, and predictions, where the future is assumed to be like the past. So if we do some discussions on the inductive reasoning, so early proponents of induction, such as Francis Bacon, saw it as a way of understanding nature in an unbiased way, as it derives laws from neural observations. In arguments starting with the detailed anchors of your persuasion in reality, starting from immediate sensory data of what can be seen and touched, and then going to the big picture of ideas, principles, and general rules, starting from the small and building up to big can less threatening, starting with the big stuff. The scientists create scientific laws by observing a number of phenomena, finding similarities, and deriving a law which explains all things. A good scientific law is highly generalized and may be applied in many situations to explain other phenomena. For example, the law of gravity was used to predict the movement of the planets. So it is from specific to general. Inductive arguments are always open to questions, as by definition the conclusion is bigger back than the evidence on which it is based. In set theory, an inductive created rule is a superset of the members that are taken as the start point. The only way to prove the rule is to identify all members of the set. This is often impractical. It may, however, be possible to calculate probability that the rule is true. So in this way, inductive arguments can be made to be more valid and probable by adding evidence. Although if this evidence is selectively chosen, it may falsely hide contrary evidence. Inductive reasoning thus needs trust and demonstration of integrity more than deductive reasoning. Inductive reasoning is also called generalizing, as it takes specific instances and creates a general rule. And this method of reasoning is ampliative because it provides a lot of information. The conclusion of an inductive argument contains more information than is already contained in the premises. So thanks for watching. If you got the point, your concept is clear, you like the video, you can like the video, and you can subscribe the video to stay notified for the upcoming videos. You can also tell us in the comment what was the point which you didn't got, and if you have any request based video, you can also type in the comment. Plus you can share this video with your friend and everyone, so they can also get benefit from the knowledge. Thanks for watching. Until then, Allah Hafiz, and its Urdu version will be released soon. Link will be given in the description. Okay, Allah Hafiz.